AI expert Ethan Mollick, who I feel like we probably reference every week because he's so good
Seriously.
at what he does, is one of the people who is now posting about a new danger being caused by AI generated content. So last week, Mollick posted on X the following. He said, quote, "It isn't just AI generated text that is starting to bleed over into search results. The main image, if you do a Google search for Hawaiian singer Israel Kamakawiwoʻole, whose name I'm sure I probably just mangled, but you probably do know him because he does a beautiful version of the song Somewhere Over the Rainbow. You've probably heard this. The main image, if you do a Google search for him right now, is a Midjourney creation, an AI generated image right from Reddit. Now, what Malik is describing is the fact that your main Google image results are increasingly being populated with AI generated images, and many of these are hyper realistic. Malik actually goes so far as to say, quote, "Seriously, don't trust anything you see online anymore. Faking stuff is trivial. You cannot tell the difference. There are no watermarks, and watermarks can be defeated easily. This genie is not going back in the bottle. A huge amount of what you learned or think you know about how to evaluate images or texts is no longer valid, not an exaggeration." Now, this has some major implications across a range of businesses and use cases. He kind of riffs on a few of them just off the top of his head that are really interesting from a marketing and business perspective. For instance, he says, look, if you're doing sentiment analysis on a large corpus of data like Reddit or Twitter to track, say, social or political or business changes, your data is forever corrupted. Are you assessing documents for a lawsuit, assuming a human wrote them in some way? No longer true. Are you seeing which opinions are popular online? Mostly AI. So there's this whole piece of this danger of AI generated content, making it highly suspect that the data you're using to do any type of analysis online is valid. But Paul, you also responded to Malik with a related concern. And you said, I don't think we're talking enough about how quickly this could deteriorate the value and reliability of Google search and what that will mean to consumer search behavior and Google's dominance in that market. Can you walk us through what you're worried about here?
I was kind of like talking to we, meaning like almost you and me in some ways when I wrote that, because I haven't heard anything about this. Like, it's just not a top, and maybe I'm just, it's not in my network. Like, people in my network aren't talking about this. Maybe in the SEO circles where I don't spend a ton of time, it is being discussed more. But I don't know that I've seen a single article about this. Like, all we hear about is that, could ChatGPT replace Google search? Like, are the large
Mm,
language models going to replace the need to use search in a traditional way? I've personally talked on the show about how it feels obsolete now to go to Google and click on the 10 links because it's just easier to just ask and get the narrative back. I hadn't really considered, what if within like 3 months, all of Google search is just a bunch of fake stuff?
mm,
And Google can't identify it. Like, they can't reasonably identify what was written by AI. They can't identify images that were generated by AI other than their own. They won't be able to identify videos that were generated by AI other than their own. So unless Google has some technology they haven't told the world about yet to identify third party AI generated content, how can they ensure the reliability of search results?
mm,
And so, like I've said before, like, my feeling is I don't want AI generated writing. I want writing from people with an actual perspective. Like, um, to know that it's their experience, their points of view that are coming through. And so if I feel like I go into Google and not only do I have to click through links, but when I'm clicking through things, like, it's not even human generated stuff anymore, I'm just going to stop using it. And knowing how easy it is to create this stuff, like, we've seen some people in the SEO space or in the digital marketing space who like tout the fact that they're writing thousands of articles with AI. So we know it's happening. We
mm.
know the image stuff's going to explode because now you can do it. We know it's going to happen with music and with voice and with video. Like, none of that by the end of 2024. If we fast forward a year from now, I mean, this stuff's just going to be everywhere. And so it all of a sudden you're like, wow, is Google search going to be obsoleted because all the content is synthetic? And I just hadn't personally stopped and really pondered that. But I think that's a very near term concern. Like I don't even think that's like a 2, 3 year thing out. I mean, I think it's like a 3 to 6 month thing out to where people could start realizing the quality of Google search results just isn't what it used to be. So I mean, have you thought about that at all, Mike? Like I don't know. Like it's
Yeah,
just an
I mean,
interesting concept.
yeah, I mean, I'm increasingly getting obsessed and almost losing sleep at night over how quickly I'm seeing my own behavior change. To your point about search results, I mean, I've basically essentially replaced Google in my daily life with something like Perplexity AI. You still have to check your information, your answers. It's stunning to me. I honestly don't know if I've done a traditional Google search seriously for something that's not like the time of the Browns game, right?
Yeah.
In weeks. And that to me might still be such an outlier, but the fact it's even possible is crazy. And I also think we're going to run into this idea of, like Mollick says, he says that literally there's going to be a dividing line now. There's content that was created before mid 2023 and content after mid 2023. Like what you are evaluating and how you behave, how you consume information online, that's the cutoff now. It's going to be different. And I haven't begun to figure out what all the second and third order effects of that could be.
Yeah. And I started like playing it out in my own head a little bit where um if you start mashing up some of these things like AI agents we've talked about, where they can go and take action on your behalf. So another example where this could become a real big issue is social media. I think specifically of LinkedIn. I'm sure it's all over Twitter right now. I don't get into the Twitter comments very much, but LinkedIn, I look at comments all the time.
Mhm.
You could easily probably train an AI agent, if not now, some point in the very near future, to monitor certain profiles for posts, read the post, and draft comments. So you have to start wondering in the not too distant future, like what social media comments are even real. Like right now, you can generally tell when they're not, because they usually just pull some keywords and then repeat the keywords in the comment. And so I see those things all the time, like even in my own feed.
Mhm.
But I think you start to wonder things like that. I don't know. And then, like you said, I think our behavior is starting to change, but we're a little bit more ahead on a lot of this stuff, like than the general public per se. Um, but even last week, like I flew into Sarasota. I'd never been to Sarasota. At least I don't think I've ever been to Sarasota. And so I was in the Uber going from the airport to the hotel, and I just went into Chat GPT. It's like, hey, first visit to Sarasota. What should I know about the city?
Mhm.
And it just wrote me like, hey, here's the sites, here's recommended restaurants, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize Siesta Key was right here. Like, tell me a little bit more about Siesta Key. I've heard it's beautiful. Like, what and it was way better experience than if I'd have gone into Google and asked the same question and got 5 sponsored posts up front, and they were all, like, paid listings of things that, like and that's when I realized, like, wow, my behavior, to your point, is starting to change. And that wasn't even because I thought the content would be fake that I went and found on Google.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
just like, this is just a better experience to have a conversation about where I am right now.
Yeah. And
So I don't know. Between that and the fake stuff, I could totally see a massive shift in behavior next year.
100%. And I also wonder specifically in our world what the implications will be for things like we already have a huge problem with fake product reviews, feedback online of businesses. I just see that being a complete nightmare when it comes to synthetic generated content. I mean, we're already
That's true.
review bombing things we don't like by, marshaling an army of cheaply paid people
Now
online.
you
I
do
mean,
AI agents to do it.
right, right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I don't want to be the one to have to do this, but I hope someone does. Like, what does the next 12 months look like? Kind of digital marketing
Mm.
story. If you write it, let us know because I don't have the brain power to think about this. But I mean, you really do need to sit down and think about the impact of online reviews and search and social media engagement. It's like, if you think about our last 12 to 15 years in the profession, like I started my agency in 2005. So that was right as social media was starting to emerge, right as blogging was starting to emerge, right as podcasting was starting to emerge. And that's really the world we've known. Like you create content, you engage on social media. It's how you do marketing, and like, what if that isn't what the future is? I don't know. I mean, it's a really interesting thing to think about.